How you doing, family? We just finished medical apartheid. Now we're going to start cleanse to heal. Medical medium cleanse to heal. About cleansing your system. We're going to do heavy metal detox after this one. It's about building a new nation, a healthy nation. And I feel like our people deserve this, and we deserve to have the knowledge, whether we use it or not, out there for us to heal ourselves. So I've taken it up on myself to share some of the books that I invested in, and I hope that you invest in the books. I hope that you go get your own copies. You study so you'll know when things go kind of wrong. You'll know how to heal yourself. You'll hopefully already be in optimum shape, mentally, physically, and your immune system will be your army, your inner army will be as strong as superheroes for whatever they throw at us. So let's get it started, family.
This is Audible. Hay House Incorporated presents Medical Medium Cleanse to Heal. Healing plans for sufferers of anxiety, depression, acne, eczema, Lyme, gut problems, brain fog, weight issues, migraines, bloating, vertigo, psoriasis, cysts, fatigue, PCOS, fibroids, UTI, endometriosis, and autoimmune. Written by Anthony William. Read by Sarah Coombs. For the underdogs. This is a message for the people who are struggling and trying to heal. My job is to look out for the underdogs who have been through hell and back. Think of the living words here as your refuge. As someone who has suffered or been close to someone suffering, you hold true clarity. You deserve to trust yourself again. You deserve to respect yourself again. It's time. Anthony William, Medical Medium. Be proud of using your free will to make your own choice to work on your healing. Have compassion for yourself and know that your suffering is not your fault. Your struggles are not your fault. You're accomplishing great things every single hour and day as you work on your healing process with the powerful tools in this book. I believe you can heal. More than believe, I know. Anthony William, Medical Medium. Forward.
I know that you can heal. That's a very, very, very strong statement, family. I know that you can heal. That's a strong, strong statement. Let's keep it going, family.
Have you got any more wild blueberries? That's what I heard behind me in an aisle of a Whole Foods store. Having just put several packs into my own cart, I was curious about who else might be a fan, so I turned around, just in time to hear the clerk say, "No, I don't think so," to a very disappointed woman. I let the woman know that there were, in fact, still more and offered to show her where they were. As we walked, I asked if she was looking for them because she was following the medical medium. Her face excitedly lit up. "Yes, I'm I'm visiting for a few days and can't be without my heavy metal detox smoothie. My encounters with people whose lives have benefited from the medical medium's information are becoming more and more frequent, and each one continues to make me smile. Several times a week, I hear from patients, colleagues, friends, and neighbors about the hope, knowledge, and healing tools that Anthony William has given them through his books and online presence. One of my favorite examples is a sign I recently saw in the local health food store. Due to the high demand for celery, the price has gone up. Why the high demand? Simply put, it's because more and more people are going beyond just talking about improving their health and are actually taking steps to do so. As a physician, I've always been driven by the idea of proactive prevention, and I encourage my patients, as I do with my own family, to learn as much as they can about their own health, become their own advocates, and be open to both traditional and non-traditional approaches. This means not giving up or waiting around for a condition to get worse. It means looking beyond a medication-only treatment with the goal of understanding and addressing the root causes of a health concern. It means incorporating impactful, natural healing options with fewer potential side effects. And it means learning about therapies that may not be mainstream or well documented by researchers yet, but that are still benefiting people on a widespread level. A preventative mindset takes action early. Anthony's approach has resonated with me from the moment I was introduced to his work, first from his books, and then as we collaborated on several treatment plans. I initially wondered if I was drawn to his advice because of my love for fruit, which, rather than vilifying, Anthony values highly and encourages people to consume. But it goes much further than our shared admiration for apples. To me, his insight makes sense. If you've been following him, you know he has been prolific in bringing to light the health burden from chronic infections, such as viruses, and chemical exposures, such as heavy metals. His tools to address these concerns have been a game changer in what I've been able to offer to my patients as part of a treatment plan. As a specialist in the field of physiatry, physical medicine and rehabilitation, and functional medicine, for more than 25 years I have focused on improving the lives of people who have lost their optimal function due to injury, illness, or trauma. It starts by understanding each person's own unique and often complex story of how they got to their current state of health. Then it's recognizing within those complexities what kinds of root causes may be contributing to their story. There are essentially 4 major root cause categories that contribute to the majority of health conditions, and most of them are well within our power to address. They are infections, toxic exposures, stress, trauma, both physical and psychological, and severe deficiencies, malnutrition, dehydration, sleep deprivation, isolation from nature or from others, immobility. And when the body is constantly on guard trying to repair and protect itself from these factors, it goes on high alert, and we feel it. The result could be pain, inflammation, fatigue, or any of the many symptoms that leave us feeling that something's wrong. Looking at a problem from this perspective explains why many chronic illnesses don't get better, even when patients have tried a variety of medicines or surgeries. Having a plan that includes removing or reducing the root causes and risk factors, along with strategies to help the body heal and increase resilience, is when people start to reclaim their health. Self-care approaches play play a big part in this kind of plan. Now here's where the dilemma lies. A self-care plan is often the part of the medical prescription that gets forgotten. And even if it is addressed, questions often arise. Where do you start? What's important? How extensive an approach or how radical a change is needed to make a strong impact? How do you implement it so it fits into your daily life? That's where Cleanse to Heal comes in. As you listen to Cleanse to Heal, you'll be amazed by the amount of information Anthony William shares. He starts with a detailed explanation about toxins, what they are, where we're exposed to them, how they affect us, how our body is designed to effectively deal with them, and why it often fails to do so. He then delves into what it means to cleanse, which is like a chance to hit a reset button and start at a fresh, new physiological baseline. He also discusses other popular philosophies and how they compare and contrast with his. Then come his cleanses. The 369 cleanse that has been changing lives worldwide is deconstructed in depth and reconstructed into 3 different versions, including simplified and advanced ones. Even more cleanse options, all true to his principles, focus on more targeted strategies. Down to their core, the cleanses illuminate the power of the food we choose to eat, not only the kinds of foods, but the ways we combine them and when we eat them. And just when you think you couldn't possibly learn any more, Anthony gives you a giant toolbox with suggestions for condition-specific supplements, herbs, vitamins, minerals. The food-based strategies, including recipes, the supplement options, the spiritual wisdom, the empowering advocacy, the whys, the do's and don'ts, the troubleshooting advice, and the deeply compassionate soul that this information comes from, make Cleanse to Heal the medical medium's ultimate resource. I am honored to write this forward for Anthony William. I do so in reverence to my father, whose devastating battle with lung cancer just over 2 decades ago awakened me to the realities and limitations of the traditional medical model. My brother and I had spent countless hours in a frantic search for life-saving information, and I was astounded to learn that holistic approaches and alternative therapies were helping people around the world, yet were never mentioned to my father as options. This also made me realize that his preventative care, which consisted of diagnostic screenings and medications to treat symptoms, hadn't actually addressed his root cause risks. Those insights, along with seeing this resilient, strong man feeling helpless, completely shifted the way I thought about medicine and what medical care needs to include to help keep chronic illnesses from destroying lives. We can't control what kind of toxins or stressors we were exposed to in the past, and we may not always be able to control the kinds of environments we are currently or will be in. But taking actions to minimize their impact is very much within our control. Giving us powerful tools to do so is the gift that Anthony William has been sharing with the world. Ilana Zablodski-Amir, MD. DIP ABPMR, IFM-CP. Diplomate of the American Board of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. Institute for Functional Medicine Certified Practitioner. Part 1. We need to cleanse. Chronic illness is growing at an alarming rate. Even with the massive amounts of organic food being cultivated now, even with the awareness about removing processed foods from our diets, even with the newest healing modalities, sickness is present like never before. No one is escaping illness, not unless they have the right information to stop the ticking clock. This is not a lifestyle book, it's a lifetime book. In a sea of false truths, this is about saving lives. Anthony William, medical medium.
And family, that's my sole purpose. I'm tired of seeing our people suffer. I'm tired of seeing people die when we don't have to. And we have to have discipline. We have to be mentally prepared to save our own lives. We can't depend on evil, demonic entities to care about our lives. We have to take our lives into our own hands. And here we can't depend on help from anyone else. It's our responsibility. Put no love before God. This is God's temple. And you should put no love before that. And it should be your first and your only priority besides family. And preservation, self-preservation is the first law of man. So this is what we're taking into our own hands, our own self-preservation. You can't put your health in anyone else's hands. No one will love you or take care of you better than you. So let's get started with this book.
Chapter 1. Cleanses from Above. The cleanses in this book come from above. They are not man-made. They are from a higher source. Cleansing is truth, a truth you're about to embark on as you read further. Whatever you believe in, whether God, the universe, the light, or the creator, or if you believe in nothing at all, that we're just floating through space together on this rock, know that the information about cleansing in this book is separate from all the other noise out there. It comes from a different place. It's not jumbled misinformation or gathered bits and pieces of gimmicky confusion. This is real, and it works. It's also needed with urgency on this earth. Chronic illness is growing at an alarming rate. Even with the massive amounts of organic food being cultivated now, even with the awareness about removing processed foods from our diets, even with the newest healing modalities, sickness is present like never before. No one is escaping illness, not unless they have the right information to stop the ticking clock. It takes a force greater than us, a helping hand from above. An army in hiding. What if I told you that there were thousands of people hiding away from the world? What if I told you that it's really hundreds of thousands? What if I told you that it's really millions? People who use what little life force they have left to pick up what they need from the store on off hours when they know it won't be crowded. People who don't go out for a light-hearted dinner and a movie because they don't feel well enough. People who miss their best friend's birthday party, engagement party, bachelor or bachelorette party, wedding and baby shower. They miss it all because they aren't up to it. They don't even have enough energy to shop for a card. Do you think there's just a handful of these people? There's a whole army of them. Many of them have found the advanced healing information in this book series and begun their healing process and are recovering enough to re-enter the world. Many more have not yet found this information. I call the chronically ill the forgotten souls. It's one thing to ignore them, it's another to forget they exist, because they have to live their lives in a way that doesn't draw attention. Sometimes they don't even have the energy to converse if given the opportunity. We're not reminded of them as we go about our days. Or they're just barely able to function in the world, sitting in the cubicle next to us at work or showing up at school drop-off and pick-up, prompting us to believe everything is fine When we see them, it can look like nothing's wrong. "Well, you look good," we may say to a friend who's struggling, thinking we're being helpful. What we can't see are the pain, dizziness, body temperature fluctuations, burning sensations, anxiety, depression, troubling thoughts, fears, brain fog, and fatigue with no answers in sight. We can't see our friend's mind taken over by doctor's appointments and worries about how she's going to find the resources to sustain herself. We can't see her need to be validated and accepted right where she is in this moment, while being encouraged that someday it will get better. Whether we offer them witness or not, the army is out there. Whether we respect them, ignore them, or forget them, there are far more people physically and mentally suffering today than there were 30 years ago, 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. Actual awareness. No one is safe from becoming ill. With what we're up against in today's world and what that's doing to our bodies, nobody is guaranteed that one day down the road they won't develop their first set of symptoms when they least expect it. This knowledge is not about living in fear. It's about not living in denial. How many people do you know who struggle with their health? Chances are, whether they show it or not, most of the people in your life do. And chances are you're one of them, whether you're dealing with acid reflux, high blood pressure, anxiety, eczema, psoriasis, brain fog, depression, or fatigue. You're far from alone. Living with symptoms has become the new normal. Much of the time, people coexist with their ailments, accepting them and never questioning why science hasn't offered answers, as suffering has become the status quo. Sometimes, though, an increasing amount of the time now, people's symptoms start to impede their quality of life. They start to lose joys and privileges. They join the hidden army of those stuck at home or even in the hospital with mystery health issues. As they consult doctor after doctor, an expert after expert, and have trouble functioning on a day-to-day basis, their spark starts to go. They lose hope. Awareness is a term we all use now. It's supposed to mean a lot. Heralded and exalted as a powerful and empowering word, it's supposed to attune us to our feet on the ground and the people we spend our time with, and to help us through our days. What's awareness, though, if we're not becoming aware of what's really happening inside of us? If we're not becoming aware of the truth that we're more and more challenged by symptoms, conditions, and illness as we go through our lives? It can seem as though everyone is a health expert these days, sharing their opinions of what works for them or what hasn't worked for them. That's easy to do when you're not chronically ill and remain unaware of what can go wrong. When we're 20 years old and making our shakes with protein powder or almond butter, or eating high protein and cutting out grains, and we're sharing on social media about how we're feeling pretty good, that represents one moment in time. Even as we're feeling indestructible, sharing about the energetic shifts we felt with our trendy diet and exercise routine, we don't realize what could be developing within, going awry along the way, and what we could be facing in the future. New exposures or existing ones that have been causing problems out of sight could, down the road, lead to myalgic encephalomyelitis, chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, CFS, or any of a host of other symptoms and conditions if we don't have true awareness of what creates these problems. Is cleansing a myth? A rising belief in the health world is that we don't need to take special detox measures because the body does so naturally. Some health professionals even go further, saying that cleansers don't actually cleanse us. This is just backlash from the cleansers of the past and present that weren't good for us. The reckless cleansing business of powders, books, and programs that weren't built around how the body works or what the body needs. And so dietitians, nutritionalists, and other practitioners try to safeguard their patients' health by teaching them that their body's natural cleansing processes are enough, not realizing that they're not fully informed in their advice. They haven't received complete training in how the body works when it comes to detox. What the experts don't understand is that we're not only up against daily toxins, we're up against pathogens, viruses and bacteria that are rapidly moving through the population, causing autoimmune diagnoses and more in people all the way from children to the elderly. We're up against toxic heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides, solvents, petroleum-based products, and other modern-day chemical warfare that's subliminally part of our everyday lives. The experts who claim we don't need to detox also don't understand that the high-fat diets most everyone eats, in whatever shape those diets come, whether no rules, standard eating, balanced diets of moderation, intuitive eating, trendy paleo or keto, or plant-based approaches that emphasize nut butters, oils, and soy, don't allow for the natural processes of detox that professionals say happen on their own. Fat thickens the blood, and that inhibits the body's day-to-day cleansing ability. Many influencers, dietitians, nutritionalists, health coaches, doctors, and other health professionals even recommend high-protein diets, not realizing that high protein automatically means high fat, because peanut butter, nuts, salmon, eggs, and chicken contain ample amounts of fat, and that with this advice, they are inhibiting the very detox processes they say should be enough to get us by in life. We can't have it both ways. We can't tell people to fill the bloodstream with fat, creating an inability for the liver to naturally release poisons on a daily basis, and also say that we don't need to embark on cleanses and detoxes. As healthy as a recommended diet may seem because it cuts out fast foods, fried foods, and processed foods, if it emphasizes fat and protein, no matter if it's animal protein-based or plant-based, whether it's called keto, paleo, vegan, or some new term, it is going to make the liver sluggish with its overload of fat. In all this confusion, people need at least the sound information that keeping the blood thinner with more fruits, vegetables, and leafy greens and lower fat is the only way to stand a chance of detoxing the toxins our bodies create as a natural byproduct and waste from their internal processes. Never mind detoxing the outside toxins we're exposed to on a daily basis. When the liver is sluggish from fat, the heart must pump harder. A fat-filled bloodstream also minimizes oxygen, allowing pathogens to thrive. Plus, toxins enter the excess fat cells, which then accumulate around organs once someone reaches the age when they can't spend 2 hours a day exercising like they used to. And when keeping processed foods out isn't enough to keep a spare tire from developing around the waist. Health experts don't realize this epidemic of sluggish livers is happening. So slow metabolism and hormones take the blame instead of a high-fat diet over too many years. What's worse is this. Too often, influencers and health professionals who make pronouncements that try to debunk the myth of cleansing don't understand the struggle of someone who has been chronically ill. They don't get what it is to go from doctor to doctor, and receive diagnosis after diagnosis, or non-diagnosis after non-diagnosis, and still have no answers about how to feel better. These are people who truly need to detox. They need to know the truth about pathogens and toxic heavy metals, and how to eliminate them from the body in order to recover from their chronic symptoms and suffering. Imagine what it is to be someone with a chronic illness, or maybe you already know all too well. What is that like to see on your social media stream someone who can work out for an hour or two a day and has no visible body fat? What is it like to be told you can attain the very same thing if you get up off the couch, go to the gym and start making protein shakes like they do? What is it like to be told that if you don't feel well enough to do that, then you must be creating your roadblock with emotional issues and negative thoughts? That you must not be thinking positively enough or engaging with the universe the way you need to be? This is what people are being told. They're being told that they don't need to cleanse. They need to get on with the program of mastering their mind. They're being told that they're creating their problems and their illnesses, and that it's their fault. It's making an entire segment of the population, those who are dealing with the reality of chronic symptoms, question their very sanity. Is cleansing a myth? No. It's a vital tool for anyone concerned about their health. It's a very real technique to fight against the burdens of our modern world, as long as you go about it the right way. Lifestyles, or lifesavers. When cleansing is regarded with a touch more respect, it's still not given its proper due. The trend today is to think of cleansing as short-term and therefore less worthy, and to think of lifestyles as potent somehow, longer term than they really are. You should be taking on a whole lifestyle, people are told, in order to make your life better. Lifestyles tend to be image-focused, with the buy-in fairly pain-free if you can afford it. Traditionally, they were material: carry a certain handbag, dress a certain way, drive a certain car, and sometimes centered around a certain hobby or sport. Over time, many lifestyles have shifted toward wellness. Exercise classes, such as aerobics, were an early trend. Then yoga, Pilates, and spinning, with flashy, healthy-seeming foods or supplements, were incorporated into these lifestyles. Paradoxically, lifestyles tend to be about quick changes in looks and attitude. They're about building a brand and then calling a brand a lifestyle, even though it's inevitable that when people get sick and develop symptoms and conditions that confuse multiple doctors, they'll realize whatever lifestyle they've adopted isn't making the problem go away and didn't prevent it in the first place. Lifestyles are not so much about putting in the work as far as the true nitty-gritty of cleaning up the body's toxins and pathogens goes. They're more about putting in the work to build a platform and sales to the point that someone's own take on a lifestyle may even become a full-time job. That's a different form of work than digging out the poisons, viruses, and bacteria from the body that will ultimately get you sick years down the road, if they haven't already. When we're watching a lifestyle in the short term, we can be easily deceived, thinking and trusting that what we're seeing in the moment is truth and not what someone needs to show to protect their brand. If we follow people on social media long term, we will see how things start to go wrong and opinions can change. If we watch them over the course of 5 to 10 years or even longer, we will see problems develop. Looking back, we could ask, why didn't that protein shake with almond butter or gluten-free avocado toast save them from their symptoms? The answer because the lifestyles that people are adopting do not look at the true causes of what's behind chronic illness. Without addressing what's really happening inside our bodies, it's just a game that people are playing, one they've gotten wrapped up in purposely or sucked into innocently. Lifestyles are guessing games. They guess with our health, using the massive amount of misinformation that's circulating. The cleanses in this book and the cleanses throughout the Medical Medium series speak to what's truly going wrong inside of our bodies that no trendy lifestyle approach can ever address, because that truth of what's going on inside of us is unknown to the lifestyle creators. In today's world, no matter what lifestyle a person subscribes to, they are still falling ill. People are, forgive the expression, dropping like flies. Symptoms are stopping them in their tracks, bringing them to their knees and forcing them to redesign their lives around feeling unwell. Even if they subscribe to the best-seeming diet trends, and they're making photo-worthy smoothies and meals at home and keeping processed foods out of their diets, they're still coming down with chronic symptoms and disease at a faster rate than ever before in history. People's lifestyles aren't saving them. Lifestyles don't get to the guts of what's keeping somebody ill. They don't draw from knowledge, insight, and wisdom about what's truly plaguing someone, hindering them from living the life they deserve to be living. They don't look out for the person who has pesticides or toxic heavy metals deep inside their organs, or viruses active inside their body, or a broken immune system, or emotional injury. They don't solve the mystery of why someone is sick at all. Maybe we're in our mid-30s, sharing photos of our adrenaline highs taken in front of the mirrored walls of the gym or the grassy hills of a running trail. It doesn't mean it's going to stay like this. It doesn't mean that 2 years later, Hashimoto's thyroiditis isn't going to develop and force us into bed, as it does for thousands of women and men when everything had seemed like it was going okay. Sharing beautiful images of plates stacked with balanced foods doesn't mean that ME/CFS isn't suddenly going to appear. And if we do go down, forced to second-guess everything we've ever heard, the people who haven't fallen yet will continue to spread misinformation. Rather than doubt their own messages, they'll believe that the predecessor who became ill simply did something wrong, or that their body was faulty. The person with Hashimoto's or ME/CFS will all too often be made to feel like a loser or a failure. Maybe they got the diet wrong, the thinking will go. Maybe they have emotional problems and are making up the symptoms, or created them by not thinking positively. Maybe it's just who they are. There's a mentality out there of the strong will survive, and it can create a feeding frenzy in the healing arts world, with social media fueling it further. The sharks survive, and everybody else becomes bait for the sharks. We forget we're all in this together. We forget we're all potential victims of chronic illness, whether Hashimoto's, ME/CFS, or any of hundreds of other afflictions, especially when we're younger and we haven't experienced health challenges yet. We think we've found the Holy Grail with each newly named trend and lifestyle. We don't realize we're repeating the same mistakes of previous generations over and over, whether we're trying a high-fat, high-protein diet, staying away from fruit, or exercising fanatically. It doesn't matter what we call it, plant-based, paleo, the new keto, or high-fat. It's so easy to think we know better than the people who've been there, done that, and are suffering. All of this is nothing compared to where it's headed in a couple of years. It's only going to become a bigger mess. The images we see of what people are doing for their health will only become more alluring and misleading to those who are at the start of their healing journeys, searching for answers to their symptoms and conditions. The promise of a youthful vibrancy will send us to videos and podcasts for all our answers. The potential for misinformation is huge, as the people who make the videos and podcasts repeat what their nutritionists or trainers or friends told them, or the theories they read about in articles, and the garbled messages are celebrated as gospel. People who've been through chronic health problems for months or even years possess a real knowing, especially those who've tried everything to get better and who have kept on struggling with their symptoms. They are aware that we are each vulnerable, much as the healthy ones may want to believe otherwise. As distancing as it can be for those in pain to watch others seem to live their best lives, that vantage point gives them a perspective to understand the tender balance of life. Even if they doubt themselves in the face of so much messaging that they are somehow weak or faulty, they possess a deeper wisdom that can enlighten us all if we listen. Nobody who gets sick deserves it. There has to be more to the story. And there is more to the story. There is so much more to safeguarding your health and healing than we know. There is so much more simplicity to it than we dare to believe. It takes a measure above a lifestyle in order to solve and remedy these problems. It takes a book with truths and answers and direction to bring us out of the depths of struggle and into the light of healing. So this is not a lifestyle book. It's a lifetime book. This is not about building a brand. It's about building your recovery. This is not about selling you a cleansing product with clothing to match to create your lifestyle. In a sea of false truths, this is about saving lives. While each cleanse may seem like a short-term measure, the hard work involved in even the 9-day 369 cleanse, the cornerstone of this book, has long-term payoffs. These cleanses are ones you can turn to throughout your life. They are about holding the keys to bring yourself back into health, about rising out of the ashes of suffering, no matter what comes your way, about true well-being and real answers for survival here on a planet that can too often be unforgiving. Even 50 years from now, wherever you find yourself, they will be here for you as lifesavers. Survival of the less toxic. Here's some perspective for you. Whoever is luckiest to be born with the least amount of toxins and to have the stronger constitution because of that, subsequently does not contract as many viruses along the way in life as others do. Maybe fortunate circumstances mean they have fewer toxic heavy metals in their system than someone else. Maybe the people they came in contact with in relationships have fewer pathogens to share and pass along. Maybe their family lineage is slightly less toxic because their forebears were raised on farms rather than in cities during the Industrial Revolution, so there were fewer toxins to pass down from generation to generation. Maybe they grew up with substantially reduced stress because they had all the resources they needed and tremendous emotional support from family. It's not survival of the fittest. It's survival of the ones who come into this world less toxic, with lots of love, support, and resources, it all counts, at the same time, and then happen to stay that way while here on Earth. It's the chance of what resources their ancestors had before them, how minimal their ancestors' exposures were, and what privileges they've experienced themselves. Love and support to protect their adrenals, less contact with the poisonous matter in our everyday world, and fewer viruses and bacteria in their path. These are the lucky ones who dominate the health movement and social media. Often they were raised with an abundance of confidence and perhaps even some entitlement, giving advice as though their protein shakes or workout routines are what have protected them and made them money. Those in this position often say that they work for humanity, for the universe, for the light. They package up their good health and the profits they make with their platforms and try to claim that it's all positivity coming back to them for the good they're doing for humankind. This new technique has the unfortunate effect of making you feel that if you're sick, or not making money, or not able to take care of yourself, or rise above your symptoms, then you are not working for good and not useful. An elitist class of the healthy is developing, with the influencers saying they're being rewarded tenfold for their gifts to humanity of spreading the word about keto or an exercise regime as the Great Epiphany. Again, the millions dealing with the very real problems that have not been properly diagnosed, treated, or understood are left to feel that they're not being positive enough or taking the right actions for the universe to reward them. They think less of themselves because what they're being told to do isn't helping at all, which leads them to believe the messages that they say they're attracting negativity and creating their own problems. They aren't being told the truth, which is that real physiological causes, viruses and other pathogens, plus toxins and poisons that are stealthily abundant in our world and in our bloodlines, are behind the epidemic of chronic and mystery symptoms. Only luck has prevented the influencers from struggling in this way. I keep stressing this point because the pernicious assumption that people who haven't been trapped by chronic symptoms simply understand the secrets of life better than those who get sick is so ingrained in our culture that the truth bears repeating again and again. If you have ever found yourself lying in bed, scrolling through somebody's feed of waterfalls, beaches, and smoothie bowls with peanut butter, wondering where you went wrong to land yourself on your little mattress island apart from the world, know this: you didn't go wrong. You are not faulty or less than. The reality is that outside circumstances and inherited poisons and pathogens, not internal weaknesses, determine the challenges we face. There's a generations-long backstory to the health that each of us experiences. The fortunate ones are born with fewer toxins, experience less pharmaceutical injury as young ones, and continue through life dodging bullets by happenstance. We can't help it if we come into this world with struggling livers or toxic heavy metals from those before us in the bloodline, who couldn't help it either. Or if we end up with viral exposures to which we're more vulnerable because a lack of support or financial stability has done a number on our immune system. Not that our health is a fixed state, not by any means. Just as someone who's been lucky for decades can come up against an exposure that leads to a health challenge at any time, so too can someone who has suffered health challenges change their fate. The key is to know how prevention and healing really work. Before we can grasp whether cleansing is needed or beneficial, or what the right kind of cleansing is, we must recognize this. Otherwise, we're swimming through a sea of confusion, all of it unsubstantiated by medical research and science, and it's virtually impossible to discover the truth. There's no reason to blame anyone in all of this. We shouldn't begrudge anyone their good health. The influencers are just as scared as the rest of the world, and most of the time they really do think they're doing good. They don't want to believe that there are as many health threats in our midst as there are, because that kind of hypervigilance is unsettling. And then there are the influencers with health problems who tell everyone what they're doing to manage their symptoms and conditions by shifting foods and exercise routines. While it may give them temporary relief and allow their health issues to ebb and flow or come and go, it may not work for many other people because it's still a guessing game process that never uncovers the real cause. Only with that true knowledge of the cause can they heal for good and teach others how to rid themselves of symptoms. What's worse than knowing about the health threats in our world is suffering and not knowing why. It's exhausting trying to discover what works and what doesn't. It's exhausting trying to get results and not seeing them, or getting some results and then losing them. It's exhausting spending exorbitant amounts of money on hope after hope. It can break you down and bewilder you, even if you're on the right track, because there is always another competing claim out there to cast doubt on what you're doing. The chronic fatigue you're trying to alleviate gets compounded by the fatigue of trying to find answers. When you finally find salvation in information that works, when you finally learn how to use it to move forward and heal, it's a feeling like no other. It's a feeling that does exist and is achievable. You don't even have to have a positive attitude in order to achieve it. You could be cranky, miserable, negative, disheartened, bitter, and even angry, and you can still experience it. Because when you take the right steps, the body strengthens quickly and helps you get to the finish line of healing. Food wars. When it comes to information about food, there's a lot of fluff out there. We could even call it smog. That smog is designed to keep people occupied and to obscure the truth. And the food wars are part of that smog. By food wars, I mean arguments between opposed food belief systems. You know the type I mean. The claims that this way of eating is better or even morally superior, while that way of eating is silly or ignorant, all of it rooted in guesswork and ideology, not truth. These battles often get in the way of conversations about cleansing. If we're kept busy with resentment toward another group, if we're distracted standing up for our own philosophy while trying to discredit the other side, we'll miss out on what's really happening inside the body, and we'll never take the time to seek out answers. The most vocal in the food wars are the people who feel the least sick. They're the ones who have the stamina to fight about plant versus animal protein, and whole grain versus grain-free, and removing fruit or allowing only low glycemic fruit, and have the stamina to attack anyone who doesn't fall into their own belief system. In support of their claims, they tend to spout scientific research studies paid for by sources with vested interests in the outcomes, because they are out of touch with the person who's been to 20 doctors and is still lying in bed with no answers about why they're sick. Perhaps they've experienced small inconsistencies with their health. They've had a little less energy here or there, faced mild acne or eczema, dealt with drawn-out rebound times from workouts, maybe had a cold or cough that stuck around a little too long, or dealt with bloating or a minor digestive issue. So they had to go on a round of antibiotics, any of which can get someone thinking about eating better. Somewhere along the way in their diet research process, they became staunch supporters of a belief system, enough to take up the cause and attack the other side. Meanwhile, all sides in the food wars are still sick. What the arguments ignore is that millions are still struggling, whether from thyroid disorders, ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, Lyme disease, multiple sclerosis, MS, eczema, psoriasis, acne, endometriosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, fibroids, crippling anxiety or depression, or any of hundreds of other diagnoses or non-diagnoses. Just like in any war on this planet, the smog of battle distracts from the suffering of those who don't have the strength to fight. Balanced diet, moderation, and intuitive eating. Balanced diet. You'll hear the term everywhere as a guiding principle about how to eat. That's supposed to be the great wisdom about food. Funny thing is, every single person has a different definition of what a balanced diet is, because no one eats exactly the same way. A balanced diet sounds like one that's regulated in some form or fashion to properly care for humans. Think about it though. What authority actually determines what makes a diet balanced? Is a balanced diet a colourful array of foods? Is it a mix of vegetables, fruits, proteins, and fats? Everyone has a different interpretation. What none of it considers is this: how can we determine if a diet is balanced when we don't know the true cause of autoimmune disease and the hundreds of labels that are given to symptoms and conditions under the autoimmune umbrella? What person, health professional or otherwise, has the right to claim that you're not on a balanced diet, or to offer a balanced diet when they're in the dark, along with the rest of medical research and science as to why someone is sick and how they can recover? It's merely a guessing game of removing processed foods and bringing in vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And that's not an answer. Before anyone can weigh in with authority on a balanced diet, they need to understand chronic illness. Everyone has a different emotional connection or disconnection to their food. They eat what they think is a healthy diet, not realizing that the everything in moderation advice they grew up with has made their food choices too varied, making too much room for troublemaker foods on their plate, and not leaving enough room for nutrient-dense options. Or they make a point on social media of shunning a certain food in the name of a more balanced diet, not mentioning to their crowd that the real reason they avoid, say, fruit or potatoes is because someone they knew used to say, mistakenly, that sugar is sugar, whenever they reached for any form of carbohydrate. And so they've felt guilty about even healthy carbs ever since. People are constantly changing their approaches to food, sometimes on a monthly basis, because they're constantly in search of the right way to eat. Those who claim, I intuitively eat, that's how I stay healthy, eventually get sick all the same. My body feels like it really needs these eggs, for example, falls under the category of justifying cravings without knowing how those foods affect your health. Eating intuitively doesn't mean that you know what causes your symptoms or conditions. We were all exposed to confusing food messaging in our formative years and difficult circumstances around food, whether it was not enough food on the table, a lack of resources to buy fresh fruits and vegetables, put-downs from family members, illnesses that affected what we could stomach, or societal values and images. Somewhere along the way, for each of us, that particular combination gelled and created the foundation of how we think about food. And then we kept being exposed to new headlines and trends and opinions and beliefs and theories and life circumstances that built on that. It's a natural animal instinct to have hang-ups around food because our survival revolves around it. We are not alone. Hyper-awareness about what we eat is built into what we are as human beings, and we don't need to be ashamed about that. We don't need to punish ourselves about what we eat, nor do we need to punish ourselves for worrying about what we eat. What we need is to be mindful that amidst all the influences that have informed our relationship with food is very little actual truth, because we're not taught the truth about how we feed ourselves for lasting health or what a healthy cleanse looks like. Hint, it's not starvation or torture. It's all still guessing games out there, with the very same experts who are saying that people should find a balanced diet, not sure what a balanced diet even looks like for themselves. Animal versus plant protein. In all the noise and misinformation out there about protein, you can usually hear a distinction between two camps: animal protein versus plant protein. The plant protein camp is much smaller. It's minute, really, when compared to the size of the animal protein camp. Plant protein proponents are fighters, though, with strong conviction, until they start to experience a few symptoms and feel the world blaming their symptoms on their plant-based diets. Overwhelmed, they surrender at rapid rates to the other side. Meanwhile, those in the animal protein camp are just as sick, with just as many symptoms. The difference is that animal protein doesn't come under the same scrutiny. No one in the mainstream is tearing down their diet and blaming it as the cause. They get a free pass from having the food they eat considered to be related to their health struggles. Plant-based folks don't get this immunity. The minute they start to deal with fatigue or brain fog or pain or any other symptom, it's blamed on their diet. The sad part is, not only do the meat eaters blame the plant-based person's sickness on their diet, the plant-based person herself quickly loses all loyalty to fruits and vegetables and easily believes the animal protein eaters' claims. Both camps are at least considered to be healthier than standard diets. Both avoid processed foods, fried foods, and most grains. Both tend to believe in the ketogenic philosophy, the theory that high fat is good and carbohydrates should be limited, if not eliminated altogether. And neither camp is taking the right measures to cleanse and detox. Neither those who promote animal protein nor those who promote plant protein know the true causes of today's symptoms, conditions, illnesses, and diseases. Neither camp realizes that the lack of protein has nothing to do with why someone is not getting better or why they're sick to begin with. Neither camp even has real science to back up their beliefs. Conventional medical science doesn't believe in the plant-based movement or in a healthy high-fat diet or healthy high-protein diet. Conventional medical science has never believed food is behind illness at all. While yes, you'll find studies about food playing a significant role in instances such as type 2 diabetes, conventional medical universities are still not focused on teaching that food is behind conditions and illnesses, even if the students who attend these medical universities are. So it makes sense that everyone is confused about cleansing and detoxing. It makes sense that health professionals are spreading the mistaken belief that your body does enough daily detoxing on its own if you eat a balanced diet. Misinformation about why health issues exist in the first place is rampant. How would anyone know the truth about how to address the underlying causes through specialized cleansing if they hadn't experienced it or seen it for themselves? Respect. all of this food confusion means that when family, friends, or even strangers see you cleansing, they may question and discourage you. In certain situations with certain cleanses that get attention, that can be sage advice. There are harsh cleanses out there. You may still encounter doubt, though, when you're doing precisely the right cleanse from this book, or simply bringing some medical medium information into your life, because there's a history of cleansing the wrong way. It's understandable that fear will linger around the words cleanse and detox. The people you know will try to protect you because they haven't been given an understanding of what our bodies are up against and what causes illness. So many people who develop symptoms or get diagnosed with a condition or disease experience a lot of peer pressure to keep on going to doctor after doctor and to stick with the status quo of what life looks like for a sick person. That pressure can be to eat a certain way. For example, to rely on mainstream comfort foods, or to get enough fat or protein in your diet, whether plant-based or animal. That peer pressure can feel disheartening and can even be misleading, as peer pressure so often is. When you find an opportunity to heal, people will keep on making judgments. You may hear, "You're trying another cleanse?" They may be skeptical, just as you may be, that after everything you've tried, this is finally the answer. Or maybe they've had a bad experience themselves with a cleanse or diet that was gimmicky and man-made and didn't have a foundation in the truth of how to get out certain toxins and bugs that make us sick. Maybe it gave them a figurative, bad taste in their mouth that led them to worse eating habits in rebellion. They don't realize that the medical medium cleanses come from a source above, and that they address the real reasons why people are sick. When we have our guard up from being let down time after time, sometimes we're not prepared to see when the truth has finally come to visit us. Those who are nervous for you when you start one of the cleanses in this book don't know that this is specific cleansing for specific problems. They're still susceptible to trendy misinformation and even the old-fashioned everything in moderation advice that's still circulating. They don't know what you're going through in this moment with your health. They don't understand the beating heart of desire you have within yourself to heal. When you're feeling good or ignoring your own symptoms, it's easy to misunderstand those who aren't feeling well and what they go through. That is, unless you're the family member or other loved one paying witness to the daily battles of someone in your life. Sitting beside them in waiting room after waiting room, trying to keep them mentally refreshed and stable even as they spend another day unable to move from the couch, supporting them in any way possible, sometimes even entering the depths with them, or literally holding them up. You know the struggle is real. Your heart aches when you see the worry and fatigue in their eyes as they search and search for answers to chronic illness. You live their story with them. Everyone has a different threshold for health problems. One person may become frantic upon developing a symptom, such as acne, that's painful or makes them embarrassed to go out. For another person, it may be brain fog that rattles them to their core when it prevents them from accomplishing focused tasks like schoolwork or a to-do list. Some people carry on with their aches and pains or fatigue, not getting upset because they consider it normal or part of getting older. Then there are those who experience several, if not dozens of symptoms at once. They might have reached a state of what looks like calm on the outside as a coping mechanism for the overwhelm of bearing it all. Everyone handles health disruptions in their own unique way, and it's all valid and legitimate. We must hold respect for those suffering from any kind of health impediment whatsoever. Years ago, the world had to be educated about cerebral palsy, strokes, muscular dystrophy, stutters, speech disorders, Down syndrome, and other pronounced difficulties, so that we could be taught to show respect. It's a new world now, and we need to bring education to a whole new level, because nearly everyone is dealing with a symptom or condition of some kind, whether mild or severe. In addition to understanding and honoring those with the disabilities and disorders we've come to recognize, we need to honor those who struggle to get through the day with other chronic symptoms and no answers about why. When someone starts to feel unwell, the respect they receive from those around them tends to drop, unless they're an elder, in which case they're expected to have problems, or a child. For the people in between, it's almost like a class system, with a class of the sick and the class of the not so sick. We're being divided. The chronically ill are swept under the carpet, treated with disregard or ignored, while those who can hide their symptoms do, pretending they're okay and keeping their struggles private, so classmates don't get suspicious or co-workers don't tell the boss. We're living in a time where we're practically punished for symptoms, taught that we shouldn't hold self-worth if we're not optimizing and performing at the top of our game. And yet, medical science and research never get the blame for not having the answers about why so many people are chronically suffering. Instead, it's the person who gets the blame for being sick, the person who's either told or made to feel that it's their fault one way or another. Because science hasn't yet discovered the physiological reasons for the epidemic of chronic and mystery illness, people are left to search for cosmic explanations. That's why the trend of believing that health is a manifestation of who you are as a person has been able to take hold. In the absence of information, in the age of cause unknown and the autoimmune theory, it becomes permissible to blame the person who is suffering for their own suffering. This is how someone starts to believe that it's who they are as a person that attracted their symptoms, that they brought it upon themselves by being lazy or not creating the right energy or not thinking positively enough, or that at some fundamental level they made the choice to stay sick, or they came to believe that their body is letting them down or turning on them, which robs countless people of their self-trust. Eventually, in the future, everyone will have a symptom or condition they can use to relate, which will make it feel safer to reveal one's own health struggle. In reality, those who haven't struggled or suffered yet, or who haven't been the support system for someone who has, those who haven't yet had to scratch and claw for answers, don't have the life experience to hold true clarity. As someone who has suffered or been close to someone suffering, you do. And you do deserve to trust yourself again. You deserve to respect yourself again. It's time. With the healing steps in this audiobook, you can tap into your body's gifts of renewal and learn to do just that. How this book works. In the rest of part 1, we need to cleanse. You'll find insights into where we find ourselves today with our health and how to make sense of the cleansing theories out there. In the next chapter, you'll discover the true reasons for today's epidemic of burnout. Following that, you'll find Chapter 3's wake-up call to the persons and pathogens that threaten our health, starting before we're even born, and that continue to hold us back in life as we encounter them in our everyday. If you think you couldn't possibly harbour any toxins, this chapter will open your eyes to the countless hidden exposures in our way. Along with advice on avoiding common daily toxins, it will illuminate the toxins we can't help encountering and get to the heart of why it's critical to know the right way to cleanse. Continuing on in part 1, you'll find the chapters, What About the Microbiome?, Intermittent Fasting Revealed, and The Juicing versus Fiber Debate, for answers about these trendy topics. It's critical that you don't get derailed from cleansing by misled theories, and these chapters will offer precisely the knowledge you need to save yourself from misinformation and stay on track. It's also critical to hear Chapter 7, Troublemaker Foods, for answers about foods that can work against your healing. And in Chapter 8, to wrap up Part 1, you'll find a guide to choosing a cleanse, whether from Part 2, which provides original, simplified, and advanced versions of the 369 cleanse, or Part 3, other life-saving medical medium cleanses. You'll even come away from Chapter 8 with an understanding of how these cleanses fit with the other cleanses from the Medical Medium series. Don't despair if cleansing seems too involved, complicated, or out of reach. There's an option for you. No matter which cleanse you decide is right for you to start with, you'll find it useful to listen to all of parts 2 and 3, since understanding how the other life-saving cleanses work helps illuminate how the 369 cleanse works, and understanding how the 369 cleanse works will help you see how this most efficient cleanse may be useful for you someday, even if you're not quite ready to try it yet. Part 4, the Insider Cleanse Guide, starts with critical cleanse do's and don'ts, such as why lemon water is on our side, so it's a do while cleansing, how to handle cleanse interruptions, and even how to make sense of water fasting and juice fasting. In Chapter 20, Your Body's Healing Power, you come to understand your body's healing process as it detoxes and what to expect in terms of bowel movements and weight loss. Chapter 21, Cleanse Adaptions and Substitutions, offers modifications and alternatives to the most common cleanse foods and drinks from parts 2 and 3. And then part 4 wraps up with sample menus for original, simplified, and advanced versions of the 369 cleanse and recipes to get you through your medical medium cleanse. Part 5, more spiritual and soul healing support, will provide precisely what it sounds like, offering an anti-bullying toolkit, revelations about the physical reasons why cleansing can get emotional, and how to weather those feelings that arise, and a message of spiritual support to remind you that healing is possible. This section of the book is here to be your anchor. No matter what new heights your healing brings you to, these living words will be available to offer grounding whenever you need it. At the end of this book, you'll find part 6, Knowing the Cause and the Protocol, with extensive lists of supplements for your specific symptoms and conditions, and insights into what causes each health issue. Here you'll find guidance on whether to incorporate supplementation into a medical medium cleanse, and which supplements to avoid and why, as well as how to bring herbs and supplements into your everyday life. Keep it nearby to use as a reference tool in your day-to-day. An army of compassion. You just found something different. You found an escape hatch, and you found it for a reason. Maybe it's for you. Maybe it's for someone else in your life too. Maybe it's the health trouble you're dealing with now. Maybe it's to head off trouble that would otherwise be headed your way. This book that you've brought into your life is timeless, the ultimate resource for getting your health back. It stands apart from the noise because its information comes from above. It comes from God. Bigger than any of us, it is meant to be a resource for the ages, one that anyone can turn back to whenever they or a loved one is in need. You don't have to hide anymore. I believe in you and all that you're going through, all that you're struggling with. I understand if you're battling symptoms that are confusing and feel like they're holding you back, getting in the way of expressing yourself or becoming your true self. You're accomplishing more than you know through the process of struggling with your symptoms or illness. And there are answers about why we get sick. They do exist. You don't have to be without the knowledge of how to heal anymore. Be proud of using your free will to make your own choice to work on your healing. Have compassion for yourself and know that your suffering is not your fault. Your struggles are not your fault. You're accomplishing great things every single hour and day as you work on your healing process with the powerful tools in this book. I believe you can heal.
Okay, family. I believe you can heal. Matter of fact, I know you can. It's about self-discipline. Whatever you put your mind to, you can achieve. The self-discipline that you have inside, no one can take that away from you. You just have to find it yourself. Once you find your self-discipline, then you're on your road to healing. And once you heal mind, body, and soul, you one with God. We all on this journey together. I struggle every day. I'm just taking the initiative to, you know, introduce life to my people. Life was introduced to me, now I'm introducing it to my people. And we will survive and get through this together. I love y'all. Peace. Chapter 2 tomorrow. Get ready. We're not stopping. We're going forward fast. Ain't no slowing down. There's no slowing down. We going forward fast. Do you hear me? I do mean fast. We're taking it one day at a time, and we're gonna heal ourselves, and we'll be a mighty army together.